You have to suffer more, whether that be you go on a 20-mile hike, you're hanging off a mountain, you're under a barbell, you're in a sauna, or you're running. You need to suffer a bit and do it voluntarily.
There are days where like physically it hurts, or, you know, I want to cry, or I do cry, or whatever it is, but like without enduring that pain and coming out on the reverse side of it, like where do I get? I get nowhere.
Welcome everyone. I have a very special guest, somebody I've known a very long time. Welcome to the Sculpt Fitness podcast. This week we have something a little bit different. I have somebody that is going to blow us up. It's gonna be awesome. I have my very good friend, somebody that I thought I would never see again, but here she is, the owner of Completely Wedding and Events. She is amazing, Claire Couture.
Hello.
She is not this soft-spoken. So if you
I'm really not. It's going to take me like 3 minutes to warm up, and then I'll get going.
In about 10, I told her, I'm like, you got to be careful with the mic. And she's like, I'll be fine. I'm like, no, you're very loud. She is a loud person. You have to be as an event planner.
I have to bark orders at people.
Hey, Paul.
All day, every day.
Get your shit together.
And then I have 3 kids. So pretty much all I ever do is actually just yell.
But you have that voice.
Yeah.
You have that fun girl voice.
Yeah.
Where it has a little bit of rasp to it.
Yep.
But you would listen to it, and it is nice to listen to.
I used to think that I sounded like an old lady who smoked too many cigarettes.
I mean, maybe. No, but people would listen to her.
Yeah, they would.
She's an old, wise woman.
Yeah.
And you're not old, and you're just wise.
Yeah, that's true. I am super wise.
You are very wise. You've lived many lives. And that's like, so I've known Claire for a very long time, and it was one of those situations where we're in our BNI group, or I was in my BNI group, and then Claire walks in, and I was like, oh, I know you. And then seeing the way that you were then to then now, of like it was like shoot right up. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's pretty cool to see. It's really fun to be around people like that you're like, dude, you're gonna like blow up, and then you were like, we're doing all these events.
And what you meant by that was like I was gonna blow up, like I was just going to explode when you knew me before, and you didn't know it was going to be this kind of blowing up.
I didn't know that. And that's what also I think is a lot of fun too. When you know each other from the chaos, the giant balls of chaos that you are as a young teen. And we were just wild and crazy. And, we went to the same school for, kids who don't do well with being around anybody. I don't even know what
that is a very gentle way to put it.
Yeah, I am being very PG with this. But basically it was just a place where, none of us, thought we were going to ever do anything. I think,
let alone survive.
Yeah, there was more of like, am I going to be alive? And I tell, right. And those of you who know me know my story. I'm sure Claire will tell everybody, one day if she hasn't told people already, but it, that's what made it so cool to see. Is Definitely. Like all of a sudden you walk into one of the largest, groups, networking groups, and I just like.
I think that the first thing you said to me was like, oh my God, we're both real grown-ups now.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, we are.
I'm like, you pay taxes? You're like, I do. It's terrible.
It's
I'm like,
awful.
It's so bad. So
only when I'm told to, though.
Yeah. We have an accountant, same one.
She's amazing.
She is awesome. Yeah.
Just got a text the other day from Ricky, and he was like, hey, I need your numbers.
Ricky,
and I was like, oh,
best.
Thank God you're texting me, Ricky.
Yeah. Accounting connections.
Oh, give that. Can we give him a shout out?
Jolie, you are amazing. You are so amazing. You're like the mother.
She's my money mom.
Yeah, money mom. Yeah, your money. Dude, she's the money
mama.
That. Why did she brand that? Money mom.
You can
money
have
mom.
it. Yeah.
You can have that.
Yeah.
Don't TM.
We won't charge you.
I think if you just say TM, that means you own it.
Yeah, TM
if you said
for
it,
Jolie.
Yeah, for Jolie. Mm-hmm. So phenomenal company, keeps us on the straight and narrow. But I also think what's the most important thing is, like I said, to see that I went to like some events and I would go to things, But I always see somebody in the background or in those pictures, and it would be you. I mean, events, why wouldn't you be in events? You'd be this place, that place, this place. And they just see pictures of you all over. It's like, I'd be like, I wonder if where it was like two events at the same time at the same. And Claire's like, I went to both.
That's actually happened.
I went to both, and you're like, whoa. So why, as far as with this, why? I guess before we even go into it, it's like, why event planning?
So I worked like the really, are we allowed to swear?
You can swear.
Okay. I worked the really shitty part of hospitality for a super long time. Went to bad kid school, got out of bad kid school, didn't really know what to do. So I fucked off in restaurants for most of my life.
Yeah.
Which led me to country clubs, which was cool, awesome. Still got paid like I was working at Chili's, and started doing some weddings and events there, and accidentally did a wedding on my own in someone's backyard when the wedding planner didn't deliver, and to put it politely.
That sucks.
So that was kind of that moment that I was like, well, I'm actually really good at this. And I have kind of collected all of these different skill sets from working different parts of restaurants, managing country clubs, doing all of the different things. Like, why would I continue? Those jobs were sucking my soul out of me, quite literally. I think there are some people who are absolutely meant to work jobs and they have to exist. If they didn't, we'd all be fucked. I am not one of those people. And I sucked at working for other people. My ideas are too big and my brain is too big. My mouth is too big. And so that was it. And I never looked back. I just dove in head first, and, thank God it worked out.
Well, she did this thing like where when I would see her, it would be like, I don't know, I have to do this. And it was like, she was going a mile a minute. She was also on like 450 milligrams of caffeine.
I have almost completely cut caffeine out of my life.
I know, which is so nice.
So
much
cool.
calmer person. But before it was like that grind, you saw it was there, and she would come in and be like, what do you think about this? What about this? I think we should do it this way. But you know what it is? You want somebody that's concerned about ideas. You want somebody that's concerned about, hey, how is this going to look that day? Hey, you might regret this day, or hey, this might happen this day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you have those things and you're looking at those things, it's like, yeah, you would want somebody to be, I don't want to say like anxiety ridden,
a little crazy,
but you want somebody that's going to pay attention. You don't want to come in and they're like, I guess
hey,
you can
what's
go
up,
over
man?
there.
Yeah,
you can go over there if you want to. That would drive me nuts.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to do anything on those days. Like, I'd be like, you take over, especially weddings or any event stuff. But how many events do you do a week, or how many events have you done in a week, and it's been pretty crazy?
I think probably like some of my busiest weeks, like 4 or 5 in a week, smaller and weddings, or a large and a few small. This past week, I did a 2-day wedding in Newport, Rhode Island, on an old abandoned fort with no running water and hardly any electricity, with a cannon fire and a boat send off and all these like crazy moving pieces. And then at the end of the week, I'm going to do a bridal shower. Midweek, I'm doing like 6 venue visits with brides. So
that's going to be fun.
Oh, it's so awesome.
For you, okay, so
I actually love it.
I was going to say, like, you can't not like that.
Yeah.
That's got to be something you're like, oh, I get to see cool stuff.
Yeah, I thrive off of it.
Yeah.
This fort that we were in this past weekend, Fort Adams, another shout out. If you guys have never been to Fort Adams in Newport, Rhode Island, it is open for public tours. They're like $10. It's super, super cheap. And this is like one of the coolest places I've ever been. Fully intact still, fort on the water. They do like overnight Boy Scout camp in it or whatever. But I mean, we had full reign of the whole place. We had guys driving us around on golf carts.
That's
and like
sick.
It was amazing.
Yeah. The amount of cool, like, okay, so this could be a testament to our bad kids school. So my thing is when I was told, well, like, it's like, you have dyslexia, you have ADD, you have something that you have problems with authority, blah, whatever. Right. But I remember just like when I got older and I started to remember myself, it's like, I never wanted to do anything I didn't want to do,
Yeah.
And like, I'd be like, why? And maybe I
Yeah.
asked why too much. Maybe I was too much of a skeptic, which is why I have this dent wrinkle in my head from constantly being like this. But it's true. It's
I
like,
have cream for that. If
I
you want.
know. I've tried. It's still nothing. I gotta
That's
get
because
Botox.
those things don't work.
I know. Yeah. I need Botox. So you have that, and then of course we would put ourselves in positions if it's going to be career wise, where we're enjoying what we're doing
All the time.
almost annoyingly so.
Yeah.
Like I go into work and people, a lot of our clients, like the testimonials and stuff we get from our clients when we train here is like, Ben actually gets super excited for you. And it's like, because I am. And it's like, I remember what it was like to do those things that are very difficult, but you still want to do them, or you get excited to do things. And for you, it's like, it's the same thing. Like you get to go see the most intimate parts of people's lives, this event that some men, some women, some people just think about, and they're like, this is the event. Like, and then you're like, well, I'm the one facilitating that.
Yeah.
I'm putting that on for them. I'm creating that environment. And I have had some real shit events. Like I've been
to a few.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, who is running this show?
But my point is nobody did.
Nobody,
It was
yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
it was like, hey, we'll get balloons. And I put out this
was Ben.
old.
It was Ben who was running.
I fucked this up. It was my fault. The cheese has been out for too long. And it's like the crackers are gross. And it's like,
Sorry.
it's like, hey, well, I got, 2 bottles of, what is it? The yellowtail wine.
Oh,
and I
gross.
exactly. See, this is why I don't have the position that you have. So I screwed those things up. And I've had so many bad events that now it's like, I can't
do it without
I
me
can't do
ever.
it without you ever. Because it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
So you have those things, you're doing 5 to 6, and now before 5 to 6 events a week, but before you were doing what, like when you
Like
first
one a
started,
month.
one a month.
If that. So like just
That's
as
so
like
cool.
a example of
This is so cool.
progression.
Yes, I love these.
My first year,
Yeah.
no joke, because I was doing other stuff as a side hustle to try to like support the launch of this
Yeah.
happening. So
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like still gardening a little. I was doing some like personal organizing for people within their homes. And that also gave me a lot of exposure to what people actually want and need
Mm-hmm.
when they are doing things, including events. And so my first year I did 3 events.
Okay.
My second year I did 27. Wow. And this year I have 50 booked. So
There's some
gives
progression
me
that
chills.
that did it. Should have. I got pumped. See, I got that. That's so cool.
yeah.
That's
And
so
what's
cool.
cool about that progression is that I was spending more money trying to advertise myself the first and second year. And then, this is not the case for everybody. Obviously, you have to find out what works for you. But the more the bulk of the business is coming from my own self-promotion or word of mouth or Facebook or whatever, people knowing people and exchanging the name instead of me having to try to force myself upon society,
Yes.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, I will if I have
Yeah.
to force myself upon society.
I am going to force myself upon society. but I think that it's well. I have a different question because this, I don't know, maybe if this is too much, but do you remember? I can remember this. So remember when you like started to make money, like
Yeah.
when you were like, or started to realize that this was a really good idea or whatever it is, because we have this thing in our society, especially in America. I mean, we're all working so hard really just to get to the middle. It's like right now everything is so difficult to do. And it's like we're working so hard. And then you're like, oh, well, I'm still kind of in the middle, which is something to be proud of because it's very hard to do. But when that first event that happened, which was a big payday, or a first event that happened, which was reviews, or a person coming up to you and saying, wow, this is the most special day that I've ever had. I've had that moment. Like I have a job that, a career that I've chosen where it's like, I work with people very personally. And it's like, you're really getting like, wow, I can, walk again, or wow, I can do this again, or, hey, I can actually I've lost, 200 pounds or whatever it is. So you have those things. For you, is there a moment where you were like, all right, yeah, like this has got to be the one. What was it?
So I think the first moment I had like that was when I showed up. I was still kind of new. I was offering day of coordinating services for weddings, which I don't do anymore because it gives me no visibility into the event. Showed up. This bride showed up. She was the sweetest thing on earth, but she was completely unprepared for her wedding. And I met her the night before her wedding, and I don't know how, but somehow me and this girl, Mackenzie, that was working with me, like, the girl showed up with one box of decorations and like an enormous place to decorate for her wedding. And we spent the entire night shopping and doing what we had to do. And we pulled this thing off, and it like, we didn't save the day because it's like your wedding. It's not like you're dying, but like we saved the day.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, like I made that happen. And then the second moment that I feel like is almost more validating for me is, and this is very, very recent. So I put together these things, they're styled shoots, and I look for talent. And usually the talent that I am able to attract, and this is kind of the purpose of why I do it, is beginners, startups, people who are just breaking into the industry and they need some more exposure, which is really, really cool. It's why I started doing it. And I had a woman who's a gown designer that I have been following her career for like 6 years, and I'm probably one of her biggest fans. She reached out to me on Facebook and was like, I want to give you one of my gowns for your next shoot. And like, I didn't realize that I was even someone who was on this lady's radar.
Yeah, that's so
and like,
cool.
she's like, hey, can we talk? And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm like your biggest fan. Like, that's so crazy to me. So that was kind of the second big one.
That's gotta be just such a high, especially like, with you not knowing.
Right.
So I think sometimes we're like, and then you're like this, but when you're like, hey, I didn't feel like I was there, and you're there, which is huge. It's just like anything in anybody's industry. It's like when you look up to somebody or you see something that somebody's doing, or you're hoping that you'll be on that level, or on that panel, or be asked a question, by another high level professional or something. That is the best. Yeah. I saw those pictures too. So I have seen those dresses because you posted about those dresses. Yeah. Those are sick. Those are really, really nice.
Super pumped.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's massive.
Yeah.
Now,
I tried not to fan out with her too much when I was on like.
Fuck that. Go full fan.
We were on Zoom and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to this lady.
I like it.
Yeah.
I was happy that we have done, I mean, like it feels like I think we've done like 12 seminars. Like we've done so many seminars in our facility for our clients, but we've also done a lot of seminars, like going to, we went to New York twice. We had another one in Connecticut, which was really great.
The turnout for those is always huge.
Oh, they're huge
too. It's insane.
It's amazing. But I had gotten like afterwards left, and I had gotten consulting work, like 4 consulting jobs, like hey, can you come in on this project and tell us about like, how we could, make things better, or our programming, or
you're like me.
Yeah. Well, that's what, you do this. And then one of them had said it was because of the way I carried myself at the event, which that was weird because I thought I was being a total goofball. I was just being me, just being weirdo. And like, and it
works for you.
It worked. I guess it worked. And then the second one was because they had heard me talking with another coach, talking about like some ideas and some things that we wanted to put together. But I also think once you kind of realize, like, I'm at the point in my career where I'm like, I already know, like, I'm a professional. I'd be considered in the top, of the things that I've done with the amount of people that I've coached, been, just with the best in basics. And every coach that I've been around that has been a real sour son of a bitch about it has been ones that you'd never want to work with, or that are out of the industry, or they're not. But the coaches that are really like, will give you their ear and talk with you and know that, hey, you're not perfect. Like you're just trying to get through stuff and work through stuff just like anybody else.
Yep.
And those are the coaches you want to work with.
And your vibe attracts your tribe. I'm like a firm believer in that. I have had people and they're like, oh, how do you deal with the bridezillas? I'm like, I have never once, not one time, had a bridezilla. And it's because that's not the energy that I attract in the universe. That's not what I put out. So that's not what's coming to me.
Yeah. Well, you also, but you wouldn't, have you ever turned down a gig
Yes.
because of that? Because you felt...
But not, so yes, I've stepped back from projects with certain nonprofit foundations because I felt like the energy was very off within the board of directors or whatever the situation may be. And it just was something I didn't feel like would work very well. So I've stepped away from projects, never too far into them. Usually it's within a few weeks I can determine something like that. And then if I get that vibe from someone who's inquiring about my services, I usually just tell them that I'm busy that date.
It's such a good...
It's, I already have something booked.
Yeah, it's such a good way to do it. Like let you down easy.
Yeah.
I've
and
had...
usually then I recommend them to someone else, maybe that works out.
Yeah, hopefully they can go, to make a move and still make that day.
Yeah.
Very good for themselves. I'm with you on that because I've had clients. I've had two scenarios where one of which in this scenario, I've had many clients like this, but I had one and I was like, well, my pricing is this. And they were like, well, I saw that, I can, you can get a discount. Do you give discounts? I'm like, no. And they're like, well, why? I'm like, cause you're a headache. I've literally said that to clients because
I don't want it.
No, but I have told a client, I work with her to this day. She knows if she heard it, she'd be like, that's me. He's talking about me. And she's such a pain in the ass. Like she's such a pain in the ass, but you at least know.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm like, you're a pain in the ass. And because it's not that she doesn't listen. It's just that she's always being pulled in multiple directions. It's really hard to narrow it down. And when she's training, it's like, we only have 2 days, like 2 days a week. That's all I can do. And I'm like, well, you need like 4. She's like, cool, but I only have 2. And you're like, all right. So you're
going to get half of a good body.
Yeah. There you go. So she knows she's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And then of course I do the thing before where it's like, we've had people and you're like, okay, well,
I'm booked up.
I'll get back to you, but we're really booked solid. And when you get that like person that comes in and you're like, whoa, I am sensing a lot of, there's a lot of stuff going on there. I don't want that shit.
Yeah.
Like, why would I want that?
Well, you're a bit of an empath, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like myself. So like, I don't want to absorb. Like I can't be in a room and not absorb. So yeah, just... stay over there?
I think that you're more extroverted. I mean, I know it's not just so simple. Like I'm extroverted for sure, but
I feel like I am when I need to be. My preference, honestly, of how to spend time is by myself with my headphones on at the gym, by myself in my bedroom reading, by myself walking in the woods, by myself sitting on the beach,
well,
not talking to anyone. Like, but that's really, so I don't know, maybe a little bit of both, but I can turn it on like a switch. So maybe that makes me an extrovert. I don't know.
They say that the only people who can truly appreciate relaxation is the people who work, or I don't want to say work. It's the purpose, the fulfillment, the service. People who are living their life with a purpose of service usually are the ones that can appreciate relaxation the most. And I had said that, you say that to these little snarky, types that are like, well, I can, I relax all the time and I do fine. And you're like, okay,
no, you
cool.
Fuck off and you don't do anything. There's a huge difference.
There's a big difference. But I also think it's like, I do think there is something to that. And for you have this thing that also we have in common, and it's with your commitment to being physically active and your commitment to, that physical drive. What, where does that come from? What ended up happening with that?
Oh, gosh, I don't even know where it really like comes from. I think honestly, it's funny because I don't have like the most spectacular relationship with either of my parents, but when I was very young, it was just always a part of everything we did. Like you just always went for a walk. You just always went on a hike. You just always were doing something where you were physically moving and active. And really the only time you sat down was to eat, laid down was to go to sleep at night. And you hit the ground running in the morning. And I think that I find a sense of satisfaction at the end of the day, knowing, and I'm going to steal this from someone, this is not my term, knowing that I completely emptied my bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to feel at the end of the day like I dumped every single thing into that day. And that means being physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, and spiritually exhausted, and like driving all of those things. You know, I'm an extremist, 100%. Like, if I'm doing something, I'm going to do it till it, like, most people would be like, what the is she doing? Like, but I have to. It's something in me that I have to do it. I feel like recently I've been coming across this thing. It's like a lack of professional integrity, and sometimes just like a lack of integrity as a whole. And I think that comes from not having drive, and it's so frustrating, you know, and not that people can't be relaxed and chill, but like the lackadaisical kind of take on life. Like, go out there and fucking get it, man. Like, it's waiting. It's waiting for you to go and take it. It's not going to come find you, but it is certainly waiting for you to go and grab that shit. And like, that's the only way I'm going to get it.
It's true, you know, because it's true because what happens, I think what people do is they go into this, like the day-to-day, like, hey, you know, I'm just kind of going to flow through it. And I tell people that, yes, there is some of that. Things do pull you and things, you know, can be helpful.
Right.
But you still have to be able to grind it out, you know, grit it out, whatever it is, because that's the only way you're going to actually move forward. Right. I mean, you could kind of stay, and a lot of those people kind of stay in this. And
complacency is the killer for me.
Yeah. Oh, comfort is a huge killer for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had said in another group, I was in a like a think tank group. It was really fun, and I had been the only one mentioned. So I mentioned this thing, and this person was really struggling with something, and I was like, "You just need to suffer. You have to suffer more." And I was like, whether that be you go on a 20-mile hike, you're hanging off a mountain, you're under a barbell, you're in a sauna, or you're running. You need to suffer a bit and do it voluntarily.
Yeah.
And the looks that I got from some of these people were very high level, and then some of them aren't. The ones that obviously are high level are like, okay, I get that. I get what he's saying. And then some of them are like, you're insane. Like, you're crazy. But I think there is some method there, you know, to, hey, like, you have to go out and do this. Like, this isn't just going to be like, oh, okay, cool.
I think it goes back to like what's intrinsic within ourselves. Like, people are born with different things built into them. And I was reading this book one time, and one of the lines in it, like, it just stuck. This lady was saying, like, she had suffered many different turmoils and came out with this sense of joy at the end of it still. And she said, you know, my life was meant to be spent enduring things.
Yeah.
And what that did for me. And like, and she didn't see that as a bad thing. And that's kind of how I feel also is, you know, there has been significant trauma. There has been significant situations I've put myself into that I had to be endured.
Yeah.
And like, even now is like, you know, there are days where like physically it hurts, or, you know, I want to cry, or I do cry, or whatever it is. But like, without enduring that pain and coming out on the reverse side of it, like, where do I get? I get nowhere. Usually the people who don't endure it and come out and push through it end up just sitting in it anyways, coincidentally. So.
Yeah. There's definitely something, you know, that has to be said about the mental and the physical game, because I think they're linked. I had said something yesterday on Instagram because it was something that was bothering me. It was like this idea that you're going to have this perfect mental health, this perfect physical body, this perfect, like, it doesn't exist. It's just, it's just forever.
Yeah.
So it's like, once you can endure that, if you think that one day it's like, nailed it.
Quite frankly, the hottest person you know hates their body.
Yeah. There's,
you know,
that's true too.
like,
yeah.
So like, there's no level of attainment where you're not going to feel something like that.
Well, I mean, we can
make peace, but you are always going to have something where like you feel like, oh, you know, this is off or that's off or whatever, and like, yeah, how well do you take it?
Yeah, but I think there's so many people. They're going to be like, oh my God, like they're internalizing, and then they throw it out there like, hey, I am my feeling right now. It's like, no, you're not. You got to chill out. for a second and just let this pass, because then once it does, you're going to be like, oh, okay, cool. Like, that's good. And we see that a lot now where people are really like just screaming outward, and it's like, dude, just chill out for a second, you know, and get back to whatever you were going to do.
And don't let that thing consume you.
Yeah.
Because it's not who you are.
Yeah. And for you to stay calm and collected, like you to stay cool, you in that, especially on high, like you're planning, like I said, events where grandpa can get too drunk and get on the dance floor and knock over the bride. Yeah. And yeah. And you being there, having, you know, an eye on some of it, like, hey, you need to lock it up. Hey, this needs to happen. You shifting. How does that play into the people you attract for your business though? So now you have to have do you have like a tight knit, you know, people that you have hired or work for you?
So yes. So for a little while it was me by myself. And
like we talked about,
and Dejan, my wonderful partner who worked for free for me for like a year.
As he should. Yeah. As he should. No.
And I think that I probably, and you can absolutely relate to this is your everything. This is everything that you believe in. It's everything you built. And like, how do you put any sort of trust into another human being to care for that the same way you do and portray the same thing that you do and carry your brand and do all these things? And you have done a wonderful job at building out those people. And I was always really scared to, like, how do I know what that looks like, who that person is, and how do I explain to someone that, like, that's what I need from them? And I think that one of the big things that played into that was like learning how to have candor with people and just saying like, hey, you seem super nice, but like one of the girls that worked with me last year just like wasn't a great fit for what was going on and how we wanted to grow and brand ourselves publicly. And so now I have 2 girls working with me, Becca, who is an intern at Amherst, and is just like a freaking behind the scenes rock star. If anybody in the world has dealt with my business, they've dealt with Becca.
Yeah.
She sends a trillion emails a day for me. But her willingness to want to learn and grow and contribute, I think, was the thing with her that attracted me. And then Angel, who is the newest absolute rock star member of my team, she came into this past wedding with me and just freaking crushed it. And the clients loved her. And it was like, and not in a way where it's too much, but every time I would think to have her do something, she would kind of already know right before I said it or be doing it when I went to tell her, or, you know, and like, it's so awesome. And she wants to be taught and mentored. She's young and she wants to be taught and mentored, and she wants to help grow the company for what it is and the genuine part of what it is. And she is absorbing the culture that I'm trying to create. And I am nervous because I've been so lucky with these 2 that
don't start with that. Don't start with that.
But I do think that
it's sharp in a business side to worry about that.
Yeah.
For sure. Those are people who said I've been a little bit more loose with that.
Yeah.
But I also think like it is what it is. You can't change it, you know?
And and right now I think that you're right. I am just attracting what it is that the company needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You said it before in the beginning. So but I think building an environment where you have people who are good at what they do, great at what they do, but also enjoy what they do is very difficult in my experience. And I've had a lot of experience with coaches that said they had it and they looked like they were going to have it and they don't. I actually, my graduating class for when I went to Brantford Hall, I think it's like less than 1% actually trains. And you know what's really sad is that sometimes I'll see some of them and they'll be like,
training.
and none of them are coaches. None of them are, there's like 2 that are business owners, and it's like, that's sad and that sucks.
Yeah.
And it hurts, but it's like, it is what it is. And then with you, the same thing. It's like, you have this very specific niche, so you have to build that culture.
I have people that I know from like restaurants where I work that message me all the time. They're like, hey, do you need extra help? And I'm like,
No. Yeah. Well,
No, sir.
But the power of saying no
Yeah.
is extremely beneficial. And I learned that the hard way with coaching, or just with business, but coaching was a big one. It's like, you said yes to too much. Like, don't say yes to all of that. So with that being said, with you have these things, you've grown, like, 1 event, 2 event to 27 event to 50 events. That's sick. But if you could say something to your past self, what would you say to that person? What would you say to you?
Aside from buckle up.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, I've actually had a conversation before where I have said, if the person who I was 7 or 8 years ago walked through a doorway and crossed paths with the person who I am now, the old me would have made fun of the new me. I'd have been like, look at this fucking square.
Yeah.
Like, who does this lady think she is? And I have struggled with that sort of throughout just the development of who I think I actually am and the person who I was pretending to be at that point in my life. Mm-hmm. And I think what I would have told myself is to be quiet and to listen to who I actually am.
Yeah. That's a very good, I would say that'd be a really strong, message. Would probably not get through.
Yeah.
But
I never would have listened. Never would have listened. I would have been like, what?
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah. I think that hearing that, I would have said, I was picturing you saying something very similar to your past self. But I love that. I think that's a very valuable message, especially the way that you said with like being quiet.
Yeah. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and unfortunately I see a lot of myself in her.
Oh boy.
A lot of my 15-year-old self. Mm-hmm. And although she's a wonderful child.
Yeah.
And definitely
your kids are awesome.
And definitely is not wreaking havoc the way that I was at 15 years old by any means. Just some of the isms, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
And I said to her literally this morning, because we're like less than 30 days out from school. She has like missing assignments and stuff. And I said, I set myself up to be on a pretty fucked up path for a good chunk of my life because of decisions I made in high school. And I wasn't able to pull that shit together until in my 30s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so if I could have saved myself that grief by and that was because I was always trying to be somebody who I was not.
Yes.
Yeah. I was afraid of what people who would think about the person who I truly am. And honestly, what's funny, and I used to care about how many people surrounded me. And then I realized like the quality of the people that surrounds me means so much more than the quantity.
Oh yeah.
And there aren't very many people around me anymore, but the ones that are pretty freaking awesome. And I could have saved like 20 years of like backpedaling.
Yeah.
If I had just shut the fuck up and listened to who I truly was.
It's true. I mean, you keep your circle small. I mean, you find that out much later. You find that out much later in life that most of the like nobody really gives a shit. Nobody really cares.
Right.
They're not actually caring about a lot about what you're doing. And I did that too.
Yeah.
I would have saved probably about 10 years, but it is what it is.
Right.
But I'm just saying like
that also made us who we've become.
It has. I mean, and of course, who you are, hopefully who you are at 15, hopefully, I mean, like without a doubt, usually it's obvious. You're not going to be who you are at 15, at 20, at 25, at 30, at 35, at 40. And if you are, that is a painful existence. It is not a good existence.
I had to walk away from a very good friend of mine because at 32, she was the same human being that we were at 15. And I was like, I love you deeply, but I cannot watch this anymore.
It's super dangerous.
Yeah.
It's so dangerous. But you also have this thing where we're on this self-love, self-help, we do this a lot of reflection work itself, which is important. But I also think there's this thing that we have to, if we can, to go, okay, like I'm working on myself, but you still can go do other things. You still can experience other things. You still need to. You're never going to be a perfect self.
Yeah.
But you also, one last thing I'll say with people is like compassion and empathy are huge. You want to have those things, especially for the people that you love and the people that are around you. But you had said something. It's like, notice the people around you. Like I have a solid crew. I try to spend as much time in noticing that solid crew with my business, with my family, with my friends. You know, it's like, who's going to be there for you? And it doesn't mean that they're going to always be nice to you. They're going to tell you hey man, like, you shouldn't do that. Like, why would you? That's not a good thing. You know, you want to have people who are going to tell you. But if you have somebody that's doing the same thing, you know what I mean? It's not going to make for a very good, you know, progress into you developing better or them developing better.
Right.
So I would say, you know, this, like, seeing you grow has been so much fun. It's been so much fun to see, you know, from when I met you, you know, in school, from when I see you walk into a BNI, you know, group, and then, you know, what is it, 3 years later, now this. So it's like, whoa, you know, and I'm so proud of you, and you're doing a great job. And it's just been so much fun to see. And it is super annoying to see you in all those pictures, though. You were in everything. I'm looking at stuff and I'm like, how the hell did Claire get there? And it's in a different end of the state.
Who the fuck does she know over there?
It was a half hour later. How is she in a different state? It doesn't make any sense, but she makes it make sense. Claire, where can people find your stuff? Website?
So the website is completelybyclaire.com. Claire is Clare, no I. It's like the county in Ireland, if that makes it easier. And social media is either Claire Quarter or Completely Weddings and Events. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and yeah.
Good. Awesome. So if you're looking for an event, you're getting married, you're doing anything, go to Claire, period. Oh, and also, I noticed that we have 1,000. What did we just hit over 1,000 subscribers like 2 weeks ago? So seriously, thank you all for liking and subscribing. I really appreciate it. You all are the best. And Claire, good stuff. And we'll definitely have to do this again.
Yay.
All
Can't
right.
wait.
Bye.
Bye.